Okay then, well, hello Noella and welcome to my spooky tales.
Thank you very much.
What are we going to talk about tonight?
Experiences, things that I've experienced, or
Yep,
I experienced as a child. Spooky things I experienced as a child. Yeah, yeah. Living in Cornwall, you know
I
Cornwall,
do know
in the
Cornwall,
southwest
yes,
of
yeah. I
England.
don't know it very well, but I know a little bit about Cornwall, yes.
Yeah, King
Yeah.
Arthur's country, full of smugglers and
See, I didn't know that.
Celtic.
That's right.
Yeah.
Pirates,
Pirates of Penzance. Yeah.
yes.
Well, this is where this happened. When I was second year in Penzance Girls' Grammar School, we had the art room. And so it would have been, it was 1969, I would have been about 12 or 13, I think. And we used, in our room, our classroom, because each year would have a separate room that you'd stay in. Ours was the art room. So we had all these really big tables. And girls used to come in with all sorts of things for lunch hour, and we do things together. Sometimes we do things like scrying. You get a piece of hair and you put it on a ring and you yes or no, like a
Right,
pendulum,
yeah.
so it clockwise for you know. So we were into all that sort of stuff, and we were sort of 12, 13, so we were really just teenagers and
Trying to freak
experimenting.
each other out, were you?
Yeah, exactly. And one of them told us a story about this thing called the art of levitation. And they said, oh, we got it right up in the air. And we thought, oh, yeah, we'll have a go at that. So come lunchtime, we cleared off the art table and we got the biggest girl in the class. So it would be challenging to lift Astrid up there. And so we had somebody at her head with two fingers, somebody at her feet, and two people on either side. And she just lay, face up to the ceiling. And it started off with this is the art of levitation and the silence must not be broken. And each person would go round clockwise and we'd all repeat that. So after we said that, it would, I won't say all the things you said because I think you've got to be a bit careful with what you're
Yep.
playing with when you do things like that.
And was Astrid part of the. Did she have to be fully into it?
Oh,
You
yes,
know, she
yeah.
had to repeat the whatever it
No,
was?
she didn't. No, she didn't. Oh, that's a good question. Did she? I don't think she did. I don't know.
Well, that's interesting, yeah.
It is interesting because it's made me think because looking back on it and I thought it was sort of a little bit like hypnosis.
Hmm.
But I suppose there's Christmas beetles everywhere, aren't they? Anyway, so the first one was this is the art of levitation and the silence must not be broken. And then the next statement was no, it mustn't have been because it was you're feeling sleepy, not I'm feeling sleepy, you're feeling
Yep,
sleepy. So she was open to the suggestion
yep.
of the people around her. Yeah. And then it got into, we said things like, which looking back on what I know about stuff now, I would never have said it had I known at the time. Things like, you are sleepy, going all the way around. And then your soul is leaving your body.
Oh, really?
Yes, which,
Yes.
yeah. And then we did on, the next one was on the count of, I think, six, because there was 2, 4, 6 of us on the count of 6, you will rise. And we say this is the table here, and
Yep.
like we're standing up. We got her up to there. And we just looked at each other and we just freaked out. We could tell from the looks on our faces. But we didn't panic. So we just sort of looked and sort of, brought it back down again. And then, I think the school bell went after that and we went back to class or what have
Yep.
you. Didn't really talk much about it. But when I think about it now, that's a heck of a, on 2 fingers,
Yeah, yeah.
under somebody's body, So,
And I wonder what
yeah.
Astrid's experience was. Was like if she was out of it or whether she was
We never got to do a
present.
debriefing or anything like that, or no,
Really?
yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. But Cornwall was very much, well, still is like that with sort of things that go on, like in the houses, or most of the houses that I lived in Cornwall were haunted. The latches would go at night time. My sister used to explain it scientifically that the house heats up in the daytime,
Oh,
so the beams are hot, and then the wood contracts at
yep.
night time in the latches, which I loved that explanation because I was so terrified every time it happened.
Oh, you would be.
Yeah.
It's good when things are explained.
Yeah, but it couldn't explain everything because there were several times. There was one time when I thought it was a cat sitting on my feet in bed, and it wasn't. the cat wasn't in the room.
Yep.
There was another time when I was in bed and I heard this scratching in the same house outside the door, and I was terrified. And I wiggled my feet, and the cat was on my feet that time. So, yeah, so I ran into my mum, and she said, "Oh, it was her." But in the morning, she said to me, "It wasn't her. She just said that so that I'd go back to sleep." And all sorts of things used to happen in that house. There was, she had a friend who was was psychic, and what Dennis used to do. He's also telepathic with his dog. He would tell his dog what to do. And I didn't believe him, of course. You know, I was 12. No. I said, well, if that's the case, I said, well, you ask the dog to go up to the TV and beg. And lo and behold, he looked at it and the dog did it. But this other time that I thought was really fascinating, he was in the front room. Mum and I were in the kitchen, and we suddenly heard this big clap of hands like that. And we went rushing into the kitchen to see what it was. And he said somebody, a nun, had just walked from where the ceiling was, walked into the lounge room there. And see, like, being a Cornish house, they're all not very big because of the miners aren't very big, you know, to get on the mines and that. And so we didn't think much more about it. But my mum mentioned it to the chap next door who was our landlord. And because the thing was, this person was walking down into the lounge room, but there was nowhere for them to come. There were no stairs or anything
How old
like
was the
that.
house?
Oh, it was
Hundreds of years.
Hundreds of years.
Yep.
Hundreds and hundreds of years, yeah.
Made me think maybe a staircase had been removed or something.
That's exactly what it was, because it was a very small little spiral staircase that went upstairs. And Mr. Thomas said, oh no, he said that before the spiral staircase went in, the stairs came down into the lounge room. That's right, yeah. So explain that.
Yeah. It makes me think the kids having these experiences, the kids are so pliable, you know, they're like clay, you know, they can be moulded, and as we get older, we do get a little bit conditioned, don't we? And we lose that sense of what's possible, I suppose, or what's believable.
Yeah. We become programmed, don't we, to the narrative.
So were there any other spooky experiences there?
In that particular house? No, not in that house. The latches would always go. There was the scratching. I didn't hear the scratching again. Yeah, my mum did have some experiences with that chap, though. Yeah.
So, Noella, what else do you know about hypnotism?
Well, when I was 19, I had impacted wisdom teeth, so I had to go to hospital and have them removed. Anyway, the surgeon who removed them, he was telling, this was after, not before my operation. He told me that as part of dentistry and learning, hypnotism was part of it. Well, I was living in Liverpool in the north of England at this stage. I was about 19, and as part of their learning, they practice hypnotism, and they got this chap, and in his 30s or something like that, and they hypnotized him, and they got him back to about the age of 5, and they couldn't communicate with him. He suddenly was not responsive. Well, it turned out that he actually came from Germany and lived in England when he was about 7. So he didn't speak English when they got him back to 5. So what they did was they had to go to get somebody to go to the languages department at Liverpool Uni and come back and as a translator translate, and that's how they brought him back, because when he was that age, nothing was making sense to him. I thought that was quite fascinating.
It's amazing.
About
how was the fella at the time?
When they in his 30s.
So that's a fair way to go back, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd love to be hypnotised. I think I'd be very susceptible to going under.
Yeah, I had a hypnotherapy session in about 2019, something called quantum hypnosis, and that was pretty fascinating.
It would be.
That took you into a really deep state of consciousness where you just floating out into the universe and seeing things up there. Yeah, but we won't talk about that part because I'll look really kooky. Yeah.
All right.
Well, apparently the unconscious mind is less susceptible to gravity. Yeah. And I'll tell you what it was. I did a bit of research because I'd never really questioned how it happened. It was just something that I'd experienced and that it did, and it did happen. But recently, I did start looking for explanations, and I came up with a couple. Was it the unconscious mind is less susceptible to gravity? And I thought too about levitation, like yogis levitate, and like shaman, and it's obviously to do with the unconscious mind, or unconsciousness. And I think to a certain degree, it's possible that I don't know. With I've been a body worker for 40 odd years. Started off in massage when I had an injury myself, so I've been through a lot of body work modalities, and one particular modality uses at the end of a session to make the body feel lighter, hypnotic suggestion. It's called recall because the mind and body work in these this reentrant feedback loop. So, it goes back and forth. So the principle behind programming recall is that you can recall it at a later stage and then feel that sensation that you felt on the table when you're nice and relaxed.
And this is unconsciously.
Well, this is when you're sort of unconscious. This is at the end of a session when like when you've had a massage and you're so relaxed and you're sort of unconscious. Really, you're in an altered state of consciousness, for want of another word. Yeah. And when people get off the table, they do feel much lighter. They feel looser and lighter, etc., etc. So along that principle, there's a maybe, I don't know. What do you reckon? So we're saying that you're feeling sleepy. You're feeling sleepy. Your body's left. So we've programmed this sense of lightness into her, and I don't know. Is it to do with some hypnotic suggestion? Impressionable, being a teenager, the mind is sort of ripened like a sponge for all that. So it hasn't been programmed with anything else.
A lot of the hypnotists are very careful who they choose. When they bring them up on stage or whatever, they have to be susceptible to some form of receptiveness,
Indeed, yeah.
So Astrid, you think she was just a lucky choice?
Or unlucky, I don't know. I hope she's all right to this day, but yeah, it was just I can't even remember whether we said, Astrid, you're doing it, or whether she said, oh, I want to go on the table. But we chose her because she was the heaviest girl, because then we knew that it wouldn't be because she was light and we were just strong and could lift her.
She had to do it voluntarily.
Yeah. Well, we didn't chain it down.
That's right. If you chained it down, you'd have been lifting the table as well.
Yeah.
So that's your theory. It's being unconscious.
Well, it's to do with consciousness, isn't it? It's to do with the unconscious mind. Because I tell you something too. As part of some of the body work I did, one of the doctors who was responsible for some of the work that I learned, he was fascinated because he said everything is about the mind. He was just fascinated with the mind. He used to wonder why, when somebody would come into surgery, they'd be walking or they could hardly walk or something, and then they'd be on the gurney and they'd be unconscious, and he could move their arm here and move their leg here, and that's when he worked. It must be the mind, he said, because when the mind is not engaged, the body can do, all these sort of things. So it's the programming of the mind. So.
But that's more of a form of self-conditioning. You have a fear of moving your body a certain way because of the pain, and so when you're unconscious and someone's throwing you around,
There's no fear.
There's no resistance.
Yeah.
That's the other part of it too, is the resistance. You know, if there is no resistance, what's the limitation?
Indeed. Yeah.
Hopefully there isn't any.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for visiting our spooky tales, and it was lovely to hear the story of levitation and your experience with it. And hopefully we'll have you back some other time to tell us some more spooky tales.
Thanks, Gary.
I want more protection.